Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Komet and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hi, Jason.
How's it going on this Sunday night for you? Have a good weekend?
I did, yeah, thanks. Had a family reunion on Saturday, my wife's mom's side of the family, and then today my own parents came over to our house for dinner and to watch a show after. So lots of family time this weekend. Hard to fit in the soccer, but managed to watch as much of some of the games that we want to talk about tonight as I could, and excited to get going. Another episode.
Yeah, and this is our beginning of the week recap episode of what happened over the weekend, and we're going to talk about the match earlier today on Sunday between Cavalry and Valour. We'll talk about the Calgary Wild. They played Ottawa Rapid on Saturday. And we'll also talk a bit about some League One Alberta matchups. Regular season is very close to being completed. So a couple things to talk about there. So
definitely. Let's get going.
Hi, this is Tobias Waszewski. You're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Cavalry got their 100th win as a club earlier today when they took on Valour in Winnipeg, but it definitely wasn't a foregone conclusion. Despite how poor Valour has been for most of this season, they did show up today and pushed Cavalry all the way to the end, and it took a 93rd minute goal from Sergio Camargo to make this one happen.
Yeah, final score 2-1, and Valour played pretty decently. This was a match where in the first, the first 5 minutes in the match, Marco Carducci had to make a big save that if that ball would have found the net, obviously the complexion of the whole game would have changed. But, in the first half, I thought Valour had a fair amount of the play, but the first half wasn't very exciting overall. But there were definitely some goals in the second half for sure.
Mm-hmm. No, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. in the postgame talked about how at halftime his message to the team was that he was bored. He said, "You guys need to do something exciting because I'm bored here." So, the game picked up in the second half, and it didn't take too long before Cavalry got on the board. This was a goal that was very reminiscent of some of the goals that we saw in 2024, wasn't it? Picture perfect cross from Fraser Aird, set piece, an indirect free kick, and headed in by a center back.
Yeah, except last year, lots of times it was Dan Klomp, and this time it was Cal Montgomery. I was thinking that if you were trying to clip a video for a text example of how to do a perfect indirect free kick and then how to sort of place it in the right place and then to have your player get their head on it, it was just textbook.
Clockwork. Yeah, clockwork. Exactly. It was an outswinging right-footed cross from near the right-hand touchline from Fraser Aird. It's his specialty. And yeah, the header was what you would describe as a glancing header from Montgomery, who got up and glanced it into the bottom left corner. And yeah, this is exactly the kind of thing that teams practice over and over and over again during training sessions. And all that practice clearly paid off. And I know Montgomery has had at least 2 headed chances this season where I think he was really disappointed not to score, including in, I think it was Cavalry's last game. But yeah, this time it showed that he's probably been working on this because he placed it perfectly.
And then for the next half hour, nothing changed too much. But then in the 81st minute, wow, I never heard of this guy before. I'm still not sure how to pronounce his name, but it was quite the individual effort.
Yeah, it was a good goal from Diego Maradona. Bruno Figueiredo. He really turned on the jets and dribbled past, I don't know how many of Cavalry's defenders. I think he actually dribbled past Montgomery twice, but he danced his way into the box and then roofed a shot past Marco Carducci to bring Valour level. Definitely goal of the week. I didn't see any of the other CPL games, but I can't imagine that anyone equaled anything like this.
And then it was kind of looking like, maybe this is going to turn out to be a draw. But yeah, right at the death, Sergio Camargo.
Definitely. 93rd minute, and there was only 4 minutes added on. So really a goal at the death from someone who's been having a terrific season. But I really want to highlight Tom Field on this play. He actually stole the ball after a Valour throw-in in their own half and picked Camargo with a really good pass. And I actually thought at first watch that Camargo was clearly offside, and I couldn't believe that the goal stood. But watching the replay, you did see that he timed his it's not really a run, but he timed it perfectly so that he was just onside when the ball was played. And then he still had a little bit to do, right? He had to do a little shimmy to dribble past Valour's goalkeeper, and then he just placed it into an empty net. So that's how I describe it. But I guess Jason, you tuned into the post-game press conference and recorded it. So I guess we could just let Sergio himself describe his goal.
Hey, Sergio, I just want to walk us through that goal and like from your point of view, how it all happened.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was one of the last minutes of the game, so I was going to stay up on that back line no matter what. And I was fortunate to see that Tom Field was reading the ball, the flight of the ball, and going to make a timely tackle. And I was just hoping that he would be able to find me after he won the ball, and he was able to find me. I was playing a little cat and mouse with that offside line, and luckily I was able to stay onside. And then I knew the goalie was going to come out pretty aggressively, so that's why I chose the way to put it away the way I did.
So that was I think that was Camargo's 5th goal of the season, and he's got 3 assists as well. So he's definitely been one of Cavalry's most important players, and maybe one of the CPL's best players this season. But as he mentioned in his post-game comments, there was a moment before this where Cavalry had a really good opportunity to seal the win in stoppage time.
Yeah, Ali Musi had that free kick opportunity, and so close.
Yeah, it would have been something special. A top corner, 25 yards out. Very like David Beckham's goal against Greece for England back in 2001 to qualify them for the 2002 World Cup. But anyway, I digress. But obviously Camargo, just a minute or two after that, managed to save the day for Cavalry. Because our conversation, Jason, would be a lot different if this game had ended 1-1.
Yeah, it would have been a huge disappointment, and there would be questions being asked about, what can we do to break out of this funk and score? And there would be lots of soul searching and questions. And, but they got the 3 points. The winning goal was an open play, which I think in a way, if anyone's being critical saying, well, they're not scoring an open play, they're just scoring on set pieces. Well, they were able to score here. So
this game was officially the halfway point for Cavalry. They've played 14 games in a 28-game regular season. Currently, they're in 3rd place. Thanks to this win, they leapfrog Halifax. It's actually pretty tight at the top, tighter than I thought. They're still 4 points back of Atletico Ottawa, who are in 1st with 29 points. But Forge is in between the two. They are in 2nd, just a point behind Ottawa with 28 points, 3 points ahead of Cavalry.
Cavalry is only 4 points away from first spot. That's generally pretty positive, but the only thing I'm wondering about is like Forge and Ottawa, like they just seem to be playing so well that you think, well, even if you're Cavalry and you're playing really well, can you still overtake these guys because they're playing so well? I don't know. It's going to be interesting second half of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we've seen both of those teams in the past slip up a little bit at the end of the campaign. So remains to be seen if they are able to maintain their form or not. But I do think Ottawa and Forge have been the 2 best teams in the CPL game for game this season.
Yeah, I would agree.
Hi, this is Grace Doherty, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, the other main game that we want to talk about this episode is the Calgary Wild's home match versus Ottawa Rapid at McMahon Stadium on Saturday. Very disappointing result for the Wild. They lose this one 3-0 with 2 goals coming off of set plays in the first half. That definitely seemed to be to their detriment. Even on the corner kicks that Ottawa didn't score from, they were still getting to the ball first, I noticed. So that's definitely something that the Wild have to work on this week as they prepare for their next game against Montreal. But 3-0 loss against a team that they've really struggled against in their 3 games so far this season.
I never did watch that too much of the match in Ottawa, but this match, I'll tell you, I think that was probably the weakest I've seen the team. They just didn't look like they belonged in the game, and it got off to a bad start, obviously, in the the 12th minute, but Ottawa was dictating the match, what was happening. They seemed to be calling the shots, and the Wild were just kind of struggling to sort of stay in it. And of course, they weren't really staying in it because they were down 3-0. Last week, they were starting to create some offense, but they took a step back on that again this week. They had there wasn't a lot produced. There was a couple chances, not a lot. I think there was a total of 2 shots on goal.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of an ugly game too. It was really physical, and it at some points it seemed like more like a hockey game than a soccer match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you with that lack of offensive generation. 2 shots on target. There was a good chance or 2 every now and then, but it just felt like a game that Ottawa had in the bag. So let's talk about those goals. And the first one was a nicely placed shot from Florence Belzile, but it was a case that I noticed this last game too, where the Wild weren't really clearing their lines on these corner kicks. And then they clear it right to an opposing midfielder who just chips it back into the box, or in this case, plays it back into the box, and Belzile with a nice finish. And then that was in the 12th minute, and just 10 minutes later, another corner kick, another goal. Pridham is still the leader in the NSL for scoring, right? I think she's into double digits now.
I think that was her 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was her 11th, but maybe one off. But yeah, this was a nicely taken corner right into the kind of danger zone between the 6-yard box and the penalty dot. She had a really good run. I was really impressed with her. She arced her run, and it's really hard to mark forwards when they run like that. But you have to try, right? She's the scoring leader. You have to focus on her because you know that's who the team is going to go for. And she was just kind of able to sneak in behind and get her head on the end of this cross.
Just basically to extinguish all hope, I think. The teams get back out there for the second half, and in the 48th minute, own goal.
Yeah, I mean, this was, you could say that the Wild got a little bit unlucky with this, but it was also a giveaway, like an errant pass from Mike Rolfsema, which is out of character for her, but played it right to someone who had just come on for Ottawa. And yeah, she made a good pass in, and then the first shot, was it saved or did it go off the defender?
I think that Bukovic got something, like she did save it, but it kind of just bounced right back. Like it didn't seem like she had much of an opportunity to gather it up. It just sort of, pinballed right out again. And then, yeah.
And I mean, from 3-0 on, I know the Wild had I think Maggie Doherty Howard had a good shot. And then in stoppage time, the Wild came close, but it just felt like the Ottawa at that point, all they had to do was see out the game and get 3 points. And yeah, if you think about it, 3 games against Ottawa, Calgary has conceded 6 goals and only scored 1. So it's a team that they really haven't solved yet.
Let's look at the standings here in the NSL right now. So this match, leaves Calgary in 5th place with 14 points on 12 games. So Halifax not far behind them with 10, and Vancouver's still just only up ahead of them by 1, but they're kind of ensconced in the bottom half of the table right now.
Yeah, and I mean, Ottawa, who are in 3rd, are 3 points ahead of them, but beyond that, it seems like Montreal and Toronto are starting to pull away, doesn't it? Because Toronto's on 25 points from 13 games. Montreal's on 21 points from 12 games. They just seem quite a bit ahead of the Wild at the moment.
We talk about how in the CPL, the table sort of has divided into the top half and the bottom half. But here, I would say that, much the same thing, like Toronto and Montreal, right at the top, and Ottawa solidly in 3rd. Like, I think when I look at the 4 remaining teams, like I rate Ottawa at this point in time a definite big step up from, Vancouver and Calgary. Well, just look how they've played the Wild. And then Halifax, although, Halifax has gained a few points here, like I said, it seems like it's the top half and the bottom half.
Definitely. Yeah. The top 3 and the bottom 3. And it's going to be very hard for Calgary to crack into the top 3 if they're able to. They're still not quite halfway through their season, so lots of games left.
So, Scott, I was at the post-game press conference with Lydia Bedford. And one of the questions that I asked her was about, there wasn't much creation of offense in this match, kind of a recurring theme, and when I mentioned this, here's how she responded, and we'll run the question and answer right now.
We had 2 shots on target in the whole game. So that's still something for us to review. But we have players arriving this week. And that, as I said to the players at the end, adds to our squad and also just, continues to put pressure on everyone to perform.
You've alluded to, bring in some new players. Is that, from your perspective, that's something you're really looking forward to? Is there anything you want to sort of just talk about that?
I think the big thing that I said all along that we need is goal scorers. So hopefully we've got 2 of those arriving this week, and that will add just a firing power. Because I think even today, like T came on and made an impact, but it's like outside of T, that's the only forward we had on the bench. So, it's just trying to find those reinforcements and also put pressure on the players that are on the pitch. And then, you've got like a Carly and Danny that were both unavailable but sat on the bench. So I hope that in the next 2-3 weeks, I'm having to turn players down for travelling because our squad goes above 20 and I have to make those difficult decisions, which at the start of the season I hated, and now I regret ever hating them because it's nice to have the ability to pick and choose. But I think that adds, that competition for places, which players need. Like, we all know it. Like, if you have the ability to be a little bit complacent, in any role, you probably sometimes take it. So it'll be nice for that kind of freshness into training this week, and yeah, hopefully they keep pushing each other.
So yeah, she said in the answer that there's 2 new attacking players joining the club this week.
Yeah, very much needed, isn't it? I think if you go back a few episodes to our mid-season report card, a lot of those points still stand. And there's been a couple of games played since then, but the lack of goals that the Wild have been able to generate is definitely concerning, and they're definitely not going to climb the table if they can't find a solution to that.
Without Callie Johnson, it just seems like there's very little happening there, and changes need to be made. That's just what it looks like. But yeah, if they add in a couple more players, that will put them at 24 out of 25 on the roster. So yeah, we'll have to see who they are. Both these players, coming in with expectations on their shoulders. I think that people are going to expect them to score and score quickly.
Hi, this is Anson Minty, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So let's quickly recap the action from Friday night in League One Alberta, focusing on the Calgary-based teams. There was a big matchup at Broadview between Blizzard and St. Albert. In both the men's and the women's divisions, these are 2 clubs that are near the top of the table. So I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on this one, considering how close to the end of the regular season we are. And it shows that they're quite close, right? On the men's side, this was a 1-1 draw. And on the women's side, this was a 2-1 win for Blizzard.
I think it showed how close these teams are. And yeah, Blizzard on the women's side picking up the 3 points, that's just massive. If they're, trying to keep in this title battle against Foothills, it's they needed to get 3 points here, and they did. So good on them. Goals by Sophia Di Giacomo and Brooke Batty for the Blizzard in the women's match.
And in the men's game, the goals came from Dominic Anamali for Blizzard, who is a University of Calgary Dino. And then St. Albert, their goal getter was scoring leader Noah Lachelt.
Yeah, I think he's still on the top of the Golden Boot race. So he's producing a lot of goals this year, that's for sure.
So that wasn't the only matchup in League One taking place in Calgary on Friday night. We also saw Villains and Rangers duke it out at West Island College. 2 very one-sided games, but different winners if you look at the men's and the women's games.
Yeah, Rangers won handily on the men's side, 5-1. And then on the women's side, Villains 6-0 victory over Rangers. And another big goal-scoring performance by an individual, and this time it was with Villains.
Yeah, Isabelle Lachance. She got 4 goals, and then the other 2 goals came from Isabel Ramsey and Olivia Reed.
The last match to talk about was Callie's versus Cavalry U21 at the West Soccer Dome, and this was a tight one. Final score was Callie's 3, Cavs U21 2.
Yeah, this was an interesting one because these 2 teams are right next to each other in the table, 7th and 8th. so toward the bottom of the standings. I was curious to see who would win this one, and I was expecting a close game, and it looks like it would have been pretty entertaining. 5 goals. So the goals from Cavalry came from Nabil Nabulsi, and then from Cali's former podcast guest, Anson Minty, scored the game winner in injury time. And then Cali's other 2 goals came from Nicholas Ruiz Lamilla and then Aaron Swami.
And there was one other League One match at a sort of non-traditional time. There was a match on a Sunday afternoon. It was in Edmonton. BTB was playing Foothills on the women's side of things. This was a makeup match. I believe it was canceled. It was a few weeks ago, and it was canceled because of thunderstorm or something like that. But anyway, Foothills pulled out the victory 2-1.
Yeah, former podcast guest Kendall Showers got a goal, and so did Grace Hannaford. So that win keeps Foothills at the top of the table with 30 points from 12 games, just 1 point ahead of Blizzard, and 5 points ahead of St. Albert. They've all played 12 games, and we're starting to see some teams that are eliminated from playoff contention now.
Yeah, like we don't have a complete picture as far as what the postseason will look like. I'm kind of working on the basis that on the women's side, at least, they only used the regular season last year. And because they have to go play at interprovincials this year, up in Sherwood Park, I'm kind of just guessing it's going to be whoever wins the regular season title. We'll try and maybe get some verification from that from Alberta Soccer. But if you do the math on that basis, so there's just the 3 teams left, Blizzard, Foothills, and St. Albert. And St. Albert's just holding on by a thread. There's only 2 matches left in the season, and they're 5 points down from Foothills. So it's looking like unlikely it's going to be them.
Yeah, it's probably a 2-horse race between Foothills and Blizzard in these last 2 games. The other teams, just to round out the table after St. Albert, we have BTB in 4th place. They actually only have 1 game left. So they're pretty much, they're guaranteed to finish in 4th. And then you've got Villains in 5th, point a game, 13 points from 13 games. And then you've got Rangers, Callies, and Scottish at the bottom of the standing.
And then let's move over to the men's side and talk about the table there. And BTB is at the top with 28 points, but it's a 16-game schedule for the men's side. So they only have 1 match left. They're 28 points on 15 games. So in first place, but the other teams have games in hand.
Yeah, they could finish on 31 points, which is a pretty good return. But Blizzard, who are currently on 26 points, still have 4 games left. So depending on how they do in the last few weeks, they'll most likely leapfrog BTB. But you also have Foothills, who are in 3rd place with 25 points with 2 games left. I think it's pretty much guaranteed that one of those 3 teams will finish first. But you've still got Rangers and St. Albert rounding out the top 5. And then you see other clubs eliminated from postseason being Edmonton Scottish, the defending champions, and then Cavalry U21, Callies, and Villains, or who haven't gotten a single point yet this season.
And there's one matchup on Tuesday to preview at the West Soccer Dome. Blizzard will be playing Cavalry U21. So this will be one of the matches to catch Blizzard up with all those games in hand they have right now.
Yeah, if they win this one, they actually will be in first, and they would still have 2 games in hand.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other places to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there so you can buy Scott's book. It's all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary, and it's called Here Come the Cavalry. You can leave us a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media, such as Twitter or Instagram or Blue Sky, where our username is YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.